Hi, this is Tom Kubistant again. Let me share with you a little secret. When I first recorded the 100 level series of Performing at Your Best, when I did the number 108 video on concentration, I couldn't wait to do this particular video on sharing with you how to improve your concentration. If you viewed video 108, you can review it again. If you haven't seen it, you may want to view it so you can understand what I was talking about. Too often we define concentration in terms of losing something. Well, what I shared in that video, there's so much to do to learn how to concentrate. It's a series of skills based on your character and your personality. As such, you can improve these. Let me see if I can punch this up for you right now. That early on, we did looking at concentration in terms of these 6 components. There are 3 components to concentration, and there are 3 dynamic processes to concentration. If you viewed 108, you can remember that it is being openly aware, being receptive, being immersed, taking in the big picture of things. On the other side of the continuum, concentration is more of a matter of paying attention, putting out energies, being very specific on things, being closed off and framed in what you were doing. Interestingly enough, the third component to concentration was being detached from the results, emphasizing the process, being in the moment, and not worrying about outcomes. Those are the 3 major components of concentration: being openly aware, being pinpointedly paying attention to something in precise detail, yet being detached from the whole process, just being in the moment and emphasizing what you can do. Hopefully that makes sense. But I found out there's also 3 dynamic processes associated with concentration. The first one is what I call zooming, not what we do on Zoom meetings, but like the old lens where you zoom in and zoom out. That is a dynamic process, and we'll talk about that later on, how to zoom back out to being openly aware, and then when and how to zoom in to paying specific attention. The second dynamic process is focusing, enhancing what you are experiencing, either in the big picture or in the small picture, detailing it, enriching it, using your mental senses, if you will, to clarify those in great and vivid and bright detail. And then the third process of it is idling. When there is a stoppage in the action, a lot of us just tune out. Like a car idling at a stop sign or a stop light, the engine's still turned on. It's at a low revolutions per minute, and you're still in it, so that when the light turns green, once you're back in the performance, then you can easily accelerate again, as opposed to being totally spaced out and trying to re-engage. As I said in that video, too many people, coaches, other athletes, certainly reporters, do not understand concentration as I presented it to you here. Let me go out of that and come back to you. And I said in that video that if you ever hear somebody use the phrase focus and concentration, they haven't a clue what they're talking about. Run away from those folks. Concentration is concentration. It is a skill that you can learn how to deepen your concentration well deeply into yourself. You can also sustain concentration. When I was working with marathon runners, we would work on some things of how to sustain their concentration for 2.5 or even 3 hours instead of spacing out and going nowhere and expending energy and maybe injuring themselves. Concentration has a depth and it has a duration to it. As such, as a skill. You can improve these things. One basic way is understand that you can apply your concentration every day, not just to your performances. Learn how to concentrate better on driving a car. When are you aware of the big picture? Well, what car may do something in cutting you off in your lane? Learning when to pay attention. Can you hit the apex of a turn very specifically and precisely? You can apply those with driving a car, riding a bicycle. You can also apply your concentration to fixing things. I'm one of these people that I need to purposefully center myself and then concentrate before I start fixing something, or things get out of hand very quickly. Creating things, cooking things, cleaning things, any of your daily activities, you can apply your concentration. Bruce Crampton was a famous Australian golfer in the 1960s and 1970s. And he said this: if you wait to remind yourself to concentrate during a performance, it's too late. Concentration is a life skill, and you can approach that in terms of your other life activities, learning how to cut the grass with improved concentration. Any of your daily activities, you can work on your concentration. Hopefully this makes some sense. When you think about it, when you mentally practice your performance or mentally rehearse an upcoming performance, that's an application of concentration as well. When you mentally rehearse something, you have to remember which of the three elements is your neurological orientation. Which of those predominated? Remember, you're either visual by nature, auditory by nature, or kinesthetic by nature, sensing, feeling, needing to be practical. Based on your neurological orientation, when you're mentally rehearsing something, then if you're a visual, visualize it in great detail, in broad and vivid and bright and robust colors, and go over that over and over again. Any kind of mental rehearsal is not only meant to be repeated, but maybe operating in slow motion. So visualize your performance area in slow motion, being aware of the big picture and paying attention to details. Some people have also played back their visualizations. If you're auditory by nature and operating by sounds, make sure you look at how something sounds, how your own breathing sounds, how you listen. Then you'll start hearing the sounds of a properly executed skill. If you're a singer or a musician, those sounds will become more vibrant. What kind of notes, what kind of passages, what kind of rhythm do you want those sounds to be? Rehearse those over and over again in great detail. The third neurological orientation is that if you are kinesthetic, learn how to be specific in how to feel things, how to sense things, and enhancing those sensations, hence enhancing those feelings associated with it. When you are mentally rehearsing something, mentally practicing something, then the more you repeat that, the more variation you can have, and the more in depth you become, more precise you become in your mental rehearsals. Just like a physical practice, like a physical rehearsal, the more times you do it in a concentrated manner, that the more precise and repetitive it will be, therefore the more control you will be. So in essence, mental rehearsal is a form of concentration. Sometimes you can use your concentration in your mental rehearsals to create if-then scenarios. Remember, I shared with you there's a great neurological difference between responding to something versus reacting to something. your brain and central nervous system, if it anticipates something, if it has looked at the opportunities or the situations, can respond much more quickly and efficiently and completely than being unaware, caught unaware, and having to react to something. For example, if you're a baseball catcher or a softball catcher, and there is one out, and there are runners on first and third, and that person on first wants to steal second, rehearse what you will do. If there's one out, you can throw it to the second baseman or shortstop who's covering second base, or fake it, because typically what happens is that when they want you to throw it to second base so the runner on third base can score easily. So mentally rehearse that whole program of when to throw it to second base, when to fake throw it and throw it to third base, and if you can pick off the runner, or doing nothing. The more you rehearse these different scenarios, if this happens, I will do that, the more quickly you can respond instead of wondering what to do. So any forms of mental rehearsals are a form of applying your concentration, and along the way, you enhance your concentration. Okay, so use your concentration in everyday life, and a simple extension of that is mentally rehearsing it based on either you visual or auditory or kinesthetic. The more you do any of these skills, like any other of these skills, the more easy it is to achieve it, and the deeper and more effective you become with those. Part of my excitement about sharing this with you is that I have 3 specific little activities to do that seem strange, seem off the wall, and they enhance concentration dramatically. The first one is a very simple one. Remember, we had awareness of the big picture and paying attention to specifics. That process of zooming in and out really increases your concentration muscles. What I want you to do is just, for the moment, just pay attention to specific attention to this dot. Everything is in your whole field of vision, everything in your entire life is focused in great detail on this dot. Do not move your head, but just look at this dot. Now, without moving your head, I want you to zoom back and take in the big picture of everything that's in your field of vision. Let all of this come to you. Don't move your head. Don't move your eyes. Be aware, openly aware. Let all of this come to you. Okay. Now, without moving, zoom back to looking at the specific dot. The more specific you can look at it, you may be able to see different variations or textures or patterns within this dot. Pay enhanced attention to it. See it, feel it. Now zoom back out to the big picture. Without moving your head, take everything in and feel the whole scope of what you can see without moving your head, without moving your eyes. This process of zooming in and zooming out helps you learn how to regulate your concentration. Now, you can do this in a different variety of ways too. Here is a rose. You can do the same thing. Look at the rose and look at all the unfolding of it. Then look at it in a different way. Zoom back out to the big picture and then go back to that individual rose. Here's another way some people have found effective. Oops. Light a candle and just look at the flame. Your whole identity is looking at the flame, paying attention to the flame. See how it flickers. Maybe it smokes. Pay specific attention to this body. Does the color of the flame change? And then zoom back out to the big picture. This process of zooming in and zooming out really enhances your ability to be flexible and pliable and effective and appropriate with your concentration. Do this at least once a day while it's still new to you, and change things around. You may want to visualize something in the room around you, or you may want to have a flower or a flame of some kind. The more you change those, the more effective you will become on that. This zooming in and zooming out starts developing the mental pliability of your concentration. Here is the second way of improving your concentration. This is really off the wall and it works wonders. I want you to pick up a book of stick matches. Most of these little matches are in a box full of 32, but I don't know. Sometimes they're 33, sometimes they're 31. Most of them are in this. This is an exercise I adapted from the psychological practice and theory called psychosynthesis. And Roberto Assagioli, the founder of that, came up with some exercises to improve your willpower. And I thought, well, willpower is nice and it's short term. Can I do something like that with a matchbox that will actually enhance the concentration? So here's all you do. Let me put this on a sheet of paper where you can see. There you go. I want you to put out every match individually by itself, being perceptive, specific. After a while, you may actually be able to feel each match. When the matches are all put out, I want you one at a time, without lighting any, put them back in one at a time until they're all back in. Your whole reality is with these matches individually and collectively. When they're all back in, repeat the process. And repeat the process to what I call ad nauseum until you go nuts with this. Early on, you'll be having a lot of self-talk, saying, what is Kubistant having me do right now? Or what's the purpose of this? This is the silliest, stupid thing. What happens is that the more you do this, repeating it, the more that chatter starts being eliminated, so that you become specifically attentive to each match, even learning about each match. Each one will have a different view or texture to them. And each time you repeat that, you keep on going on. I don't know how many times to do this in a session. My athletes and performing artists say they will do it until they go nuts, or until their mind wanders or they become too fatigued. Fine, then stop it. And I found out that the best ways to do this activity is for the first 4 days of what you're doing, then do it 4 times a day, okay? Until you go nuts. You'll start finding some improvements very quickly. The next 3 days, doing it 3 times a day. And then after a week, the next 2 days and every days after that, do it twice a day. You will become a lot more effective, a lot more efficient with it. What will happen? What you will experience with doing this little matchbox activity is that you will have a sense of calm about you that may last for hours on end. You can, after a while, identify every single match. Those of you who are good at counting may find out there's 32 or 33 or 28 matches in the box. You will know those things. After a while, there develops a rhythm and a precision to handling each one of these individual matches, and then the overall rhythm of doing the exercise. What you may want to do is vary the patterns that you put the matches out in. You may want to put them out in rows. You may want to put them out in a square or a star. That varies it as well, and it keeps you adapting to those. What will happen? is that the more you do this, the more days you do this, the less your minds will wander. And you will be going into what I call a pure doing mode. You're just purely being and purely doing the matches. Your whole reality are the matches in this matchbox. Sounds silly. You'll find out as you do it. Your whole reality becomes this, and this becomes one of your most prized possessions, your individual matchbox. Now, don't do this of lighting them all up and saying, I can't do it anymore. They've all gone up in smoke. And also, do not do it with one of those big box of kitchen matches. I had one of my baseball pitchers once was so enthralled with this. He said, let me take it to the next step and put it in a big box of 250 of the kitchen matches. Well, it didn't have the same effect because it took so long to put out to 250 and bring back to 250. A lot of it is the repetition of it, of putting out 32 and then putting back 32. What will emerge is more deep and more sustained levels of relaxation, centering, and concentration. As you continue to do this, here's what people have fed back to me on this. There is a movement from a full mind doing this, like full minds, full self-talk, to an empty mind, and then back again. You'll start seeing what's going on in your mind. There is a balance between complete control of specific matches to letting go of the control. You do lose track of time. I've had some of my performers say when they started doing it after a week, they were able to do it, and they ended up doing it for 15, 20 minutes, and it seemed like 2 minutes. Is that they are so immersed and engaged that they're at one with those matches. You gain, after a while, some perspectives and maybe insights into your deeper selves. There is an increased sense of serenity in doing this activity. This matchbook becomes your own best friend, your own touchstone, if you will, to your concentration. Sometimes I've had people report back to me that they became scared, frightened of how deeply they went into themselves doing this. Yes, that's sometimes part of the process. Keep on doing it. You'll become more at ease with deeper levels of yourself. What happens is that you don't touch individual matches after a while. Your mind and body blend into the moment, into the rhythm. And yes, concentration will improve through this. You will find out how you pay attention, be aware, and being immersed in it through this silly, simple little practice of unloading matches and reloading matches. Do not believe me, find out for yourself. So what we've covered so far is learning how to zoom in and out, paying specific attention, being openly aware, and developing that zooming. Along the way, you will also develop your focusing, your enhancing of a specific image, whether it's that or a rose or a flame or it's something on the wall, and you become more specific in it, but then you'll also take much more in. When you do the matchbox activity, what I call meditations on a matchbox, you'll start becoming aware of a rhythm, of paying attention, being aware, but knowing that each end is really a new beginning. And those are used as a vehicle, as a mechanism to go farther and farther, deeper and deeper into yourselves. Again, don't believe me with these first two. Find out for yourselves. The third concentration skill activity is a secret. And I'm going to share with you now. In some instances, during a performance, you can, what I call, turbocharge your concentration. If you know anything about an automobile, high-performance automobile, some of them have turbochargers on it. And turbocharging uses the escaping gases to feed back extra energy into the engine, where superchargers, like in dragsters, force in more air and through the blower and gives it more compression. Turbocharging is just the opposite. On the back end of it, that what's being used as almost an exhaust is used to recycle it. There are times in a performance you may want to turbocharge it, whether it's a critical moment, or when you're fighting, you're fatigued, or when you think it's a critical passage in the piece or in the play. What you want to do is something very simple. Here it is. Open your eyes wide. Open your eyes as wide as you can. As you know that the eyes are really an extension of your brain, unlike your other senses. So what you're doing when you're opening your eyes wide, you're making a connection with your brain and almost turbocharging your concentration. Now, I found that you cannot do this all the time. Maybe in a performance, doing it once or twice. It loses its impact if you're doing it every play in a football game or every pitch in an at-bat. No, only during critical moments, defining moments, crossroad opportunities, and you'll be sensing these as they come up, that learn how to open your eyes wide. And what happens, you're a lot more aware, immersed, a lot more paying attention, being engaged with the moment. Some of you, when you do this, you will get freaked out a little bit. Whoa, that's way too intense for me. You will find out when you learn how to open your eyes wide, engage your concentration, it really kicks in almost to a deeper level, which can help you maximize that key moment, that critical moment, get past it, or take advantage of that. So learn how to turbocharge your concentration simply by opening your eyes wide as they will go for 3, 4, 5 seconds. You'll know when it's engaged. These 3 little activities you can use to enhance your concentration skills. The zooming in and out, paying specific attention, being openly aware, learning how to have your meditations on the matchbox, paying attention to each match, then being aware to the overall rhythm, and each time you complete it, you start it over again. And that overall process is a catalyst to going deeper within yourself for a longer period of time. Once you're able to concentrate more, then you can have specific times when you can turbocharge your concentration by opening your eyes wide. Now, some of this seems silly or funny. Most of you will not do this as much as I'm suggesting you do. But these are ways for some of you who choose them to practice enhancing your concentration. It is so much fun to concentrate deeply. And at a level, there's so much deep and lasting enjoyment from being immersed into the flow of the performance. That's where magical things start to happen. For those of you who are interested, I developed a little laminated reminder card on how to concentrate in a bigger picture. If you are interested in having this laminated reminder card, just email me at my email address, lower caps, tomkubistant@gmail.com, and email me with your snail mail address, and I'll send you 1 or 2 of these concentration cards. Sometimes we need to look at some kind of reminder card before a performance, during breaks in the performance, sometimes during the performance, to remind us what we need to do to stay on track. There are 10 elements in this, and each one of those, I'm not that smart, will be a key to emphasizing something specific. Sometimes different types of performing artists have told me when they pull it out, one of these will just jump off the page at them. They don't know why, but that's the ones they need to work on in that moment. And that will help them re-engage, re-immerse themselves. We all need reminders of that. Concentration is the heart of the mental game. It is the heart of your mind, body, spirit, emotions connection. Remember, concentration. It's a coming to a mutual center. And from the center, you can allow all the skills, abilities, experiences, intuitions about you and your performances to come out in a fluid manner. As much as you practice your physical skills with your performance area, you can also practice your mental skills. As you learn how to concentrate, you will be a match for nobody. You will be that way of maximizing yourselves. Concentrate, practice concentration, expand your concentration, and you will be amazed what happens to you as a person, as well as you and your performances. Do not believe me? Find out for yourselves.